Okay. This meeting is being live streamed.
Do I have to press
Well,
on it?
there we go. We are live streaming on YouTube. And I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Una Burke. Hang on a
Hello?
sec. Let me get rid of my YouTube channel so I don't hear myself back. There we go. Okay. Good morning, Una. How are you?
Good, thanks, Stuart. How are you?
Excellent. Yeah, good. It's a very sunny morning here in
Good
Creative
weather.
Heartlands HQ in rural Leitrim. Where are you? You're down in County
Into
Roscommon.
Roscommon.
Where are
Yeah,
you?
Roscommon. So
Yeah.
halfway between Boyle in Roscommon and Carrick and Shannon in Leitrim.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
Leitrim Roscommon border. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can claim you as a honorary Leitrimite.
For today, but my neighbours won't be impressed. So I'm in a
Very
little
good.
village called Knockvicker.
I
Just
know
on
Knockvicker. In fact, I
Knockheath.
drove through Knockvicker only yesterday. There
Oh,
you go.
really? Wow. How
Yeah.
funny.
I get out and about. Yeah.
Oh, good.
So nice part of the world. So for those people that don't know, although it should be pretty obvious with the display behind you, you work with leather,
Yeah, I do
uh,
work with leather.
and you've been doing that for quite a long time. Where do you think the fascination with this material kind of came from?
Well, from the very start, my mum made our clothes when we were kids. So she was a home economics teacher. And so we used to help her to make clothes. And so she also really loved leather. I remember catching my mum and her mum, Granny Ryan, in like gift shops in Spiddle sniffing leather purses, like little drug addicts in the corner. So that was my first awareness. Going, come here, and I smell the leather. So so basically, I had a knowledge of materials, raw materials from a really early age. And then when I
Yeah.
started working with leather, I decided to go to fashion school at Limerick School of Art and Design. I realized that was the direction I wanted to go in my life when I was about 14 or 15. So I got together a portfolio and applied to all the colleges and ended up going to Limerick because they had a great reputation for the fashion course. And then I worked with leather a little bit while I was there, but I really wanted to make sculptural forms. That was kind of just what I was drawn towards. But whenever I tried to make them from leather, I was working with lambskin and goatskin. I didn't have a knowledge of leather, and it's so technical. So I took a year out and I worked in a handbag company in Bennettsbridge in Kilkenny, Shanu Design. And then I went over and worked with Philip Tracy and created sculptural forms to apply on the head. And then I still was searching, even when I went back. I was still working with leather when I went back, but I still hadn't found the one that was kind of going to speak to me. And it was only when I went to London College of Fashion in 2007 and did a master's there in fashion artifact. And that was when I discovered vegetable tanned leather, which is very, very specific because it has a different handle. It's really firm. And so you can achieve really sculptural forms using it. Whereas the others that I was using before that, there were chrome tanned leathers. And I didn't know that there was any different types of leathers. There were still cowhide and pigskin and lambskin. So you can apply the same kind of processing to all the same animals or animal skins, and you'll end up with a very different handle to the product. So if I use vegetable tanned pigskin or lambskin, it will be firmer than a chrome tanned pigskin and lambskin. So basically that's kind of how I guess I ended up working with leather.
Your journey. So you were searching for the material that kind of suited you, really.
Yeah.
And
do
the
you know
ideas
what
you had
then?
in your head.
When I was already working with it then, started working with this vegetable tanned leather during my master's, I was told by my dad and my aunt that actually my grandfather, their father, was a cobbler. And his father was a cobbler, and his father's father was a cobbler. So it was in the blood from both sides, basically. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And
Yeah.
did you ever see your grandfather making shoes, or
Well, I was 2 when he died,
Oh,
but I
right.
do
Okay.
think that as a craft tradesperson,
Yeah.
um, those it's not just the skills that are handed on; it's the values and the
Yeah.
appreciation for me for the longevity of this material and the environmental impact of it. You know that if you're going to kill an animal for the meat, you're going to use every part of their body and respect their life
Yeah.
in doing
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think it's a set of values that's handed down through the family, whether or not I learned leatherworking directly from him or not. But I do have his awl.
Oh,
Yeah,
look at
which
that.
is really sweet to have.
Oh my God, that's
Sorry for
fantastic.
my dodgy nails, by the way. They've been needing to be done for a while. But yeah, isn't it
They're
gorgeous
a lot
to
more
have
bling
my
than mine.
grandfather's awl?
Yeah, wow, that's a
Really
fantastic. How
warm.
old is that tool, do you think?
I have no idea. I know that my dad gave it to me and it belonged to his father.
Yeah,
But I would imagine it was probably handed down to him from his father and his father's father.
yeah. So that's, yeah,
And they used to make shoes for people who were emigrating to the US.
right, okay.
So I think it's lovely
Getting on
to
the boat with a
know that,
good pair of shoes.
yeah, exactly. Who could go across the world without a good pair of shoes? And like,
Yeah, yeah,
that's part of a process. You know, people were making a drastic change to their life and to the lives
yeah.
of their families because they were sending money home. And so it's I don't know, I'd love to know if there's a pair of shoes in somebody's attic in the States somewhere that
In New York somewhere,
my
yeah.
my ancestors have made to help them better their own life. Yeah, it just
Yeah,
feels kind of
wow,
special. Yeah.
that's fantastic. I just want to pick up on, so your mother was a home economics teacher, so like,
Yeah.
were you, is that kind of, like teaching and sort of like, giving back to the world, sort of like, your craft,
Yeah.
you must have kind of got that from her, yeah? Is that sort of, something?
Yeah, well, I love sharing my knowledge. And so anybody that ever visits the studio, they generally go away with some new skills, whether they want them or not. But they generally
Yeah, yeah,
enjoy the process. Like they're not skills that you kind of learn every day or you see in practice every day. So yeah, I mean, whenever anybody visits the studio, as I said, they get to play with the tools. It's really fun.
yeah.
But also I've I've done like leather workshops in tons of different universities across the UK when I was there for 13 years. And, you know, in other countries, myself and Emmett went over in 2018 to Beijing, to BIFT, which is
Wow.
Beijing Institute of Fashion Technology. And we did a 3-week course there. So I did the leatherworking education and Emmett taught them about the business side of things that we were doing
Yeah.
every day. So that was really good. And I've done a workshop in Istanbul and in where else? Yeah, just like, you know, most of the colleges in the UK, so in
So
Cambridge and in Brighton and Bristol and Norwich and Northampton and where else? London
been
College of
around.
Fashion, in the
Yeah,
Royal
yeah.
College of Art.
So
Yeah, so it's
the teaching's
really
in the
good.
blood then, really, yeah?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so.
Excellent, yeah.
And we've
Well,
also done workshops with kind of corporate workshops, which are great as well, because you
yeah.
really get to take people out of their comfort zone and teach them something fun. My favorite was when we went to Facebook headquarters in London,
All
and
right.
people would come in, and like these are people who are under severe pressure and dealing with really tough stuff. Some of them would be the people that would kind of sort through all of the content and be
Wow,
saying
okay.
really, really, really tough stuff.
Yeah.
And they would have to kind of delete images and, you know, it'd nearly turn your
Yeah.
stomach probably what they have to deal with on a daily
Yeah.
basis. And some of them come into the workshop and it's only like a couple of hours long. But they would come in with their phones and their iPads and, go, I can't really concentrate, I'm just here for a few minutes and I've got so many emails, and I'm like, that's fine, totally fine, work whatever way it works for you. So they'll like be emailing and then doing a bit of leather working and then usually they're kind of going, emailing. And they just really start having fun with the material. So that's exactly what it should be. That's what I really love. Seeing people.
Well, we're hoping that in the new year, you'll do some workshops for us as well. We're looking at doing those kind of traditional leather, working techniques, but then also looking at introducing some of the digital technologies into things, which I know is something that you're kind of increasingly getting interested in.
Yeah.
Have you used them in the past, or is this just something new that you're sort of like, coming to?
Well, I've dabbled very, very slightly early on. The reason I haven't done it so much is because of the burn edge, but I want to figure out ways around doing that, or maybe using that burn edge as like a feature.
You're talking about when we use the laser cutter.
It's going to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But like it's only realistic for me to try and move in that direction a little bit, as well as doing what I already do, because as I was explaining to you before, Stuart, I've got carpal tunnel now. I'm quite heavily pregnant, actually, and you get
congratulations.
Sometimes you get carpal tunnel as part of the fun, and so I got a big order through, and I put a lot of pressure on myself because I need to get it out before the baby comes, and so so my wrists need the support. And so it only makes sense. And time-wise, maybe during my maternity leave, I'd like to explore the idea of getting stuff cut out without me having to physically do it, because then, I can be at home minding the baby while production still continues. So, so it makes sense.
I guess it's something that people don't really think about, is that the work, it can be quite physical. I mean,
very much so.
When you're sort of like, processing the leather and cutting the leather, like, what kind of tools are you using? I know you were showing me sort of some of the kind of the dyes that you use.
I don't use the dyes very often. I've just bought a hydraulic clicking machine, which I can use a dye on, which is which is a knife that you get made in the shape of the pattern piece. But actually, mostly I'm hand cutting everything. So I've got some tools here. So this is a clicking knife, traditional one. And this is my cheap knife.
A rotary blade.
Which puts a really good line, and that's the only reason I cheat. But it's also the only tool that has ended me in hospital, because I've cut the side of my finger off. Well, nearly cut it off. It got sewn back on. Then this is an edge beveler. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll grab a little bit of leather and I'll show you what they do.
Wow. Okay, we've got a live demonstration on the go here. Look at this. Okay. I'm loving it.
So you don't need to see what a knife does really, but the edge beveler is one of my favorites, and it's very therapeutic. I find it really, you have to make sure that your angle is good. Good enough light here. Hang on.
No, we can see that really nicely.
We've got two little legs here. I'm not sure if you're seeing that. There's two legs and there's a teeny weeny blade between them. And then I have got a straight line of leather, and I push it so that one leg is on top of the leather and the other is to the side of the leather. And I have to turn it at an angle, at a 45-degree angle. And also this angle is really important. So it has to be 45 degrees or 35 degrees that way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to shave off like a little curly bit.
Yeah.
So that
you get a nice kind of like smooth kind of edge there,
Kind of rounds the edge slightly.
Rounds the edge, kind of chamfer, That's great,
so then once I do that, I will get a product called gum tragacanth and rub it into the edge. It's water-based, but it's a burnishing process. So the friction of rubbing it into the edge smooths it even more so, and it softens the fibers.
Yeah, so you're going to
yeah, and then after that, I use another process to keep the fibers down so that it won't go fluffy over time.
Right.
That's a Japanese product that I have.
Wow.
So that's like kind of the edge finishing details. And then obviously I'll draw out my pattern, and I use just a normal Bic pen, or there's silver leatherworking pens as well. And then I'm hand punching with this, all of the holes, the join holes. What else? Sometimes I'll do a crease line. So I've got an edge crease here. I'll show you how this works. So I normally do it before I do the bevel, because again, it needs to catch on that edge.
Yeah.
You can do it on this one here. This is just a scrap from around the. So it goes parallel to your cut line.
Oh yeah.
So if your cut line is any way off, then that'll be off. But yeah, they're all like little kind of tiny details.
Little ticks, yeah.
Yeah,
fantastic.
But those are the details though that, I mean, that's only a few of them. But those are the details that kind of change the standard of the product from, you know, if you go into Topshop or some high street store, they'll literally have used kind of hydraulic clicking knife type thing and cut out a bracelet or a belt or whatever, and it'll have a raw edge. It won't have any finishing done on the edge. It won't have any beveling, creasing. Certainly won't have 2 layers of edge finishing. And actually a lot of, like with handbags and that, you'll see in high street stores, they will have a finishing on the edge of like the shoulder straps, but it's plastic based and it cracks over time and it peels up, and it looks really cheapy and tatty. And so products that we use, they're water based and rubber based, so they'll never do that. So those are the details that you know are the difference in the price. So it'll last longer and look better for longer, and actually look better with time instead of deteriorating.
That's great. That's brilliant. I want to just ask you about how you get your designs and where the inspiration comes from. Does it start with kind of ideas and themes, or does it start with kind of shapes and materials? Where, you know, or is it a kind of mix of both? Like where?
A little bit of a mix of both. So the choice of material in the first place for me represents strength, resilience, and so the whole essence of my brand is about the same things. And like, you know, I kind of nearly choose to use the leather because it speaks the language of what my brand is about. My mum was very sick when I was growing up. She had rheumatoid arthritis for all of my life, as long as I knew her. And she, was the most positive and strong person I knew. And both my parents, I mean, you know, money wasn't flowing in the door. They were both working 2 to 3 jobs pretty much. And so the whole essence of the brand is about the strength of the human spirit and resilience, and, you know, how we can rise above the crap in life. And there's plenty of it. And, you know, we all day to day have our own stuff to deal with, that we just have to get on with life, even if it's hard, and put on the brave face. And so that's, you know, a message that comes through on, I have it here actually, hang on, our heroes. It's all about being your own hero, basically. Can you read that? Or is it backwards?
Can't really read that. Okay. Our heroes, aka our customers, our brand celebrates the strength and resilience of the human spirit. That's a good one. Yeah. That's great. So
basically with the aesthetic of the products, they are very much about you know, the warrior within. And so the big flamboyant pieces that I make are, you know, people who are already brave will wear those, no doubt. And then there's the quiet heroes that are struggling every day with something going on at home that they just have to get on with. And they're just part of their lives and you can't change it. And so it goes from one extreme of the big dramatic pieces down to, you know, the simple bracelets, which I should be wearing, of course.
Be your own brand ambassador.
Yes, I know, I'm terrible.
Yeah,
but like, I know of people who are going through, we'll say, cancer treatment or other things, you know, really difficult things, and they'll wear one of these, not because I've suggested it, but because a friend has given it to them or they've treated themselves to it, and it kind of just reminds themselves that they're strong. And you know, that actually makes me tear up, because that's exactly what it's about. And to feel like, you know, I'm not telling people this normally. I mean, I'm telling you guys now, but like before I found out about this, these people just decided to do this for themselves. And this is like nearly an unconscious or a non-verbal communication that they got what it was about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What the kind of essence of the brand was about, and, you know, applied it to their own lives, and it's helped them on a day-to-day basis just to stay strong. So that's a real honor. Yeah.
Fantastic. This kind of strength and resilience thing, I mean, it really does come through, I mean, in, like you say, in the kind of like more figurative pieces, your kind of more art pieces, which look like kind of like armor. Is that an inspiration from sort of like, and is that where you
so
kind of draw some themes from?
Yeah. So in concept, that was the idea about resilience and strength. And so when I was doing my master's at London College of Fashion, I looked at medieval war armor as a visual representation of that idea of how people can be protected, yet still the body can still function underneath these armor pieces. In the art pieces that I made at the very start, I chose to think a bit further and a bit deeper on how sometimes people can trap themselves within the emotional barriers that we can sometimes set up to protect ourselves, and kind of the irony of that. And so that's why some of the really theatrical, dramatic pieces that are for exhibition only and not for wearing, though they fit out on the body actually, but it's about the language of gesture with those, and how people can ironically trap themselves within those barriers, even though they were set up to protect themselves. And so I was looking at the figures from Pompeii.
Right, okay. That's really interesting.
Those bodies were trapped in a traumatic moment, and literally, like,
you saw those frozen poses.
Exactly. And you can look at those and you can feel the pain, because that's an international language that breaks all barriers of where you're from, what color your skin is, what religion you believe in, and anything like that. We all have bodies. We all, like, the language of gesture is much more used than any other type of language. I don't remember the statistics now of how much of our communication is actually visual and non-verbal. I think it's something enormous, like 60% or something. So that was what was behind that. And so now the body pieces that I do, they are more wearable, and they are for actual kind of purchasing and wearing. And it's great because when I did my first fashion week in Paris and London, back in 2010, I think, maybe 2010, I from past experience had a lot of use of my dramatic art pieces, but worn on the body. I had them asked for photo shoots for Vogue and W Magazine and Dazed and Confused. And I knew the impact of them. I knew that they were sending a message, they were communicating this message to people, and that they were great for creating publicity and media attention. And so when I decided to do my first kind of London Fashion Week or Paris Fashion Week collection, I said, okay, I'll do some theatrical pieces based on that, using the same kind of strapping construction technique that I developed in my master's. And then I said, okay, I'll do some commercial pieces as well, like handbags and belts and things that I thought people would buy. So I thought I'll cater for the buyers with those, and then the media will buy will use the theatrical pieces. So basically, when the products get into the shops that have ordered from me, the belts and handbags, then, I'll have all this publicity set up for them to kind of
feed off each other.
Yeah, exactly. But what I was really pleasantly surprised was that there were buyers out there that really wanted the theatrical pieces as well. So my very first season, I took orders from stores in New York, LA, Miami, and Hong Kong, and Italy, and Milan. And for these dramatic pieces.
Why did that surprise you? Because
I don't know, maybe because I'm not theatrical. Quite the big yellow necklace. No, I don't know. I was just really pleasantly surprised. I guess I didn't know the market massively, and also I was doing those harness pieces before.
Was that your first kind of major collection?
Say again?
Was that your first major collection that you did?
It was my it was my very first collection that I brought out and asked people, did they want to buy, offered on the market. So I had no experience. The previous collection was my master's collection. It was purely self-fulfilling, really, which was what was such a joy about it, and what education is a joy that way, and it is a luxury that way. And like at one point, I remember my tutors, I was saying I wanted to make handbags. They were like, you're going to have all your life to make handbags. Why don't you do something that is just for you and just for no commercial reason? So
no, exactly,
so it was a real luxury. But I'm looking at a handbag here, staring at me. So that's nice. Actually, this is like another technique that I developed. Well, it's replicating the strapping technique that I do, but it's using an etching process. So this is all one panel of leather. So this is my way of visually replicating that very heavily constructed process, but doing it at a lower price point.
A simplified form,
which means that this is around 500, whereas this version here, which is the heavily constructed version, is like 1,800.
Just because there's so much work involved. Absolutely,
and I mean, people can see the difference, but it's nice to be able to offer it to
absolutely. I just want to pick up on one theme you was talking about like the idea of the strength and I guess from that first collection you got a lot of interest, and a lot of your pieces then went to what I would class as like very strong female characters, such as Katniss Everdeen in the Hunger Games and Lady Gaga and Michelle Yeoh in Star Trek.
Katniss.
Good old Katniss,
arm brace.
My favorite definitely is Michelle Yeoh. I'm a huge fan of her and her work, and the piece you did.
They're up too high. I can't reach
them. They're up
them.
too high. Don't worry.
Those photos are up there.
People can check that out on your website.
There and there.
How do those kind of like commissions come about? Do they just see the pieces,
with that one,
or were you actively going after the kind of I guess the costume market? I guess
no, I'm not. We've never gone actively after them. We have stocked in places where the costume people buy, which is good. So with Michelle Yeoh, we were stocking a store in New York called Shop Untitled, and I need to get in touch with the buyer again because I've let things get a bit slow there. we're not the best at the sales. Like, we could be making more sales and more products if we tried a bit harder. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, basically, Gapu, the buyer from there, he placed an order, all in black. They have a very kind of sci-fi type look, and they sell a lot to people going to Burning Man Festival, but also Gersha Phillips, who is the costume designer for, I think it's not still running at the moment, but for Star Trek Discovery. They're on to new projects basically. But Gersha anyway went into that store and she bought lots of stuff from different designers for filming that Star Trek Discovery. So she bought a bodice that we'd made for Gapu in black straps, and then so she's wearing that in, I don't know which episode. Actually, it was the advertising for the whole show. But then, because she really liked it, she contacted us directly and she commissioned another piece. So we sold one piece via wholesale and then another piece directly to her. So obviously you make kind of nearly 3 times the price on that. So that was really good. Helps pay the bills. But yeah, it was really nice to do that project and to be able to kind of do something specific for them. And
is it something that you get asked to do quite a lot? Like, create costumes for films and, work with the art directors and the costume designers there. I mean, is that something that you enjoy doing, or is it or is it a lot of pressure?
It's really fun. It's really fun because we moved the business home in 2020 and early 2020, and so I've been kind of like a bit of a handbag and belt factory and bracelets since I got back, because with COVID there weren't filming and loads of things were put on hold. So we've been doing costumes for a little while. But yeah, I mean, I love that whole creative process of working hand in hand with, the person who is going to be dressing these people. And, your brief changes a little bit for the piece that I made for The Bodyguard. It was a West End show for Beverly Night. I had to make a lot of adjustments we started with an original piece that I had made, and then we did one suitable for dancing on stage because the leather needed to be softer,
softer and more pliable,
more flexible, and there needed to be a zip to get her in and out of it really quick. So that was good, and it was changing up the process and makes it complicated, but it makes it fun because, as I said, production of handbags and belts and bracelets, but then have these fun projects as well. And is my internet working okay? Because there's something.
It's fine. You kind of glitched for a second there, but you're back now.
Okay. I just got a thing up saying your internet's unstable. Not the only thing unstable sometimes.
Exactly.
But good. Then with what was the other one? With the Hunger Games, that happened very strangely. They contacted me, Kurt and Bart were the designers or the costume team, and this was for the second one with Donald Sutherland. They said, we want neck pieces and belts for the Avocs, who are the grooming team of Donald Sutherland, in a scene with him. And they said, okay, we want these. And then they kept changing their minds. And I was saying to them, my mom's having an operation in a week or 2 time. We need to get this done before that happens because I need to go home to Ireland. And they were like, yeah, no problem. So anyway, it got delayed. And I ended up starting the process, making the product halfway. And then my partner, Emmett, who's my business partner and my life partner, he stayed back in London. We were based in London at the time. So he stayed in London in the studio with a maker that I had working with me at the time. Shifra was her name. And I basically had to sit in the corner of, I think it was a stairwell in the hospital where my mom was having an operation.
Oh
trying to
God.
manage this whole situation.
Talk us through the process.
Yeah, through Skype at the time. There was no Zoom at the time. And so, yeah, talking Schieffer through what needed to go where and move this here. And Emmett then managing the whole thing as well.
Oh
So
my
really
God.
bizarre.
Bit stressful.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So they've all happened
Wow.
different ways. And
So,
with Janet Jackson, it turned out that her stylist lived up the road from us in London. So she popped around to the studio with the outfit that she had made for Janet to wear for the MTV Awards in Bilbao. And then we made a piece to go with it based on a previous piece that I'd made. So it was good. It was a very hands-on process with her and me and the mannequin.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on, because you were in London for a long time and then you moved back to Ireland. What's the difference between sort of making in Ireland versus, rural Roscommon versus making in, sort of London? Like, is it harder, easier? Is it, more freeing?
It's harder to get staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I struggled with that. But then again, that was the pandemic too, because there was some people that wanted to work with me, but I didn't really want to invite new people into the studio because of family stuff. So that was difficult. Working here is not that much different because I'm a handmaker, because I'm not working with factories. I mean, I can get supplies shipped here. Brexit was a pain getting stuff over and back. But it would have been a pain if we were still in London anyway. And we moved home just before Brexit because of family things going on. We just had our first little boy, Leo, 4 months before that. So just because the internet, we can sell that way
online.
There's certain customers that would have come for studio appointments that might be flying in from Singapore or the Philippines or other countries. So there's a guy from Dubai that has paid us half for half of a product, and we can't seem to manage to get to the same country now for him to have a fitting. And we tried to refund him, but he said he really just wants the piece. So he works for an airline, but he said he'll fly to Ireland for that. And we've had a buyer from South Carolina come here just to Roscommon a few weeks ago. People are up for seeing Ireland as well.
I guess. There's a bit of lure of the green. You've been doing collections. Is there a bit of I know nothing about the fashion industry. Is there a kind of a treadmill of the fashion collections and having to kind of always, have something new to show and how do you manage that, or have you kind of said I've had enough?
At the start I very much got involved in that when I set up the business in about 2010, and it's highly pressurized. And I mean, I was doing 2 collections a year, but there were people doing brands doing 6-8 collections a year. So I never bought into that. I had offers to do catwalk shows, so I would become a catwalk designer. And I turned those down early days because I could see what a hamster wheel, as you said, that was. And that it's 25, well, it was at the time 10 years ago, 25 grand to put on a catwalk show. So you spend most of your time looking for sponsors and people to help you to do that, and I wasn't sure that wasn't really the journey I wanted to go. So I did presentations, which offered me the opportunity to show pieces on bodies without having to do the catwalk show. Now, over the years, the business has evolved all the time. We still always did London and Paris Fashion Week, but we would do an exhibition type thing where we would have the work out and display, so the buyers could come and pick it up that way. But I stopped doing the kind of 2 collections per season a little while ago, a couple of years ago, maybe 2016. And now kind of introduce new pieces throughout the year. And then there's key events that I've done kind of new work for. So we did create for a little while in Brown Thomas for a couple of years. And now it's more of an evolution on our own terms. So
yeah.
But the industry is also changing. The fashion industry has also realized the error of their ways, and the whole kind of 6 and 8 collections per season is not done so much anymore. There's certain brands still do it, of course, but there's because of the sustainability issue that people have finally cottoned onto.
I was just going to say, I mean, that kind of came up last week in our chat with Tara. She worked, in China, in the sort of textile industry in China, and
right.
That kind of like completely shocked and changed her attitude to fashion and its production, and sustainability is so important. How is it?
It always has been. People just didn't give it.
Yeah.
They didn't want to know. To know. Yeah. So sustainability is at the core of what I'm doing. I'm making to order. I don't have stock on hand. So I'm not like flogging it off kind of thing. And so I can produce tons more. Everything that I do, from my materials to my process to, trying to work with, local couriers and like eco-friendly kind of packaging and things like that. Everything is sustainable in what we're doing. But so the fashion industry is trying to make up for that, and one of the things is the not needing to do so many collections, which is a relief.
Yeah. And do you kind of miss having the opportunity to kind of do the more flamboyant stuff that those kind of shows would have given you, or are you
I still plan to go back once I have my baby. I'm not giving up. I've already been chatting with some friends about it. We've got plans, but it might be like in another year or something that make a new collection, go back to Paris Fashion Week. I miss all that, but life is like that. You kind of evolve. You've got waves and you go with them. And right now, personal family stuff is what's important. But I mean, there's Thierry Mugler took a couple of years, like maybe 20 years out, and was like massive in the 80s, and then fairly quiet for a good few years. And now all of a sudden, like the last kind of 10 years, massive again. So that's the plan.
Excellent, good stuff. One last question. I'm just interested in when you're sort of starting out, say thinking about like like this idea you have at the moment, say that you might want to bring on. Do you sketch? Do you kind of doodle?
A little bit of sketching. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing new body pieces, very often I'll take some older pieces, or sometimes when I'm in the middle of making, we'll say a handbag, I'll kind of pull the straps a different way and then try it on the shoulder and go, oh, that looks quite nice. And then I'll just put a pin in it, or not easy to get a pin through leather, but I'll somehow keep it there, get somebody to hold it and take photos and then develop a piece from that.
Okay.
So like a handbag would inform a body piece. And then you kind of add different sections to make it into a wearable product. So that's kind of one of the processes. And other times I will do a little bit of sketching, but I've been more of a hands-on 3D.
So you like to get
kind of designer.
To get into there. And do you use other materials other than leather to sort of do these things? Do you use like cardboard, to kind of model stuff?
Not too much. What I'll often do is I have a load of this leather split left over from when I was doing my graduate collection. So basically I bought the leather and it was like 3 mil thickness, and I had to split the back off it because I only wanted it to be 1.5 mil thickness, because I wanted to glue it back to back so that it would finally be 3 mil, but with leather on the inside and the outside of the product. So basically I have a load of waste leather, I suppose, that I use for making my patterns, and it has a similar nature. So
I get you. Oh, that's good. Again, just
sustainability.
reduce, reuse, recycle. Very good.
Yeah,
excellent.
Exactly.
Very good.
And I have boxes and boxes around me of all the scraps from like 13 years. I don't even know how many years in business I am because COVID confused everything. It's like a time warp. But since 2010, so or 2009, I graduated.
Right.
So I have like boxes of all the scraps from all those years. And that's what I was thinking could be used to make small products, like maybe earrings using leather, using laser cutting processes and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all, definitely. Just looking into the future. You're expecting your second child in a few weeks' time. So that's exciting.
Who knows what that will throw up, but anyway.
Yeah, no, very good, excellent. And what about for 2023? Are you gonna just take a bit of more family time? Are you looking to sort of maybe bring in other makers to sort of help out, and what are the kind of plans for the studio?
It's not so easy to get other people to help. I mean, I haven't advertised, to be honest, lately. I have somebody that works with me part-time at the moment. But I don't know what the future is going to hold. I mean, like, I'm going to continue working. Leo was 3 weeks old and I was after C-section, and I was down on my knees cutting straps of leather for bags for an exhibition in Switzerland. So I can't imagine I'll be much different this time. Just because I love my process. I love my making. My making, it keeps me sane. And so I'll probably continue working a little bit throughout maternity leave. And then after that, I've got some half-made kind of cool new body pieces like skirts and bras that I know would work really well in that store in New York if I would only just show the guy. So if I can get on with that and then bring it to Paris, he goes shopping there during fashion weeks. So there's another store in Boston as well that was just emailing me last night. She wants to place an order, but I'm going to have to squeeze it in before having the baby as well. So
oh my God, you're a busy woman.
but like, I really want to continue to work with the international stores because they buy the fun stuff. Like we've had stores in Ireland here buying handbags and belts and nice flamboyant pieces as well. And we do have direct kind of customers through our website within Ireland now that are buying the body pieces, shoulder pieces and that. So I'm proud of the Irish customers, the Irish market.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, and since you've come back to Ireland, I have to get the plug for the enterprise office. How has the enterprise office kind of down in Roscommon
local enterprise office? Yeah, they've been really good. Kind of just access to funding, and that they've helped me to buy that new machine, which I've had, I've on my wish lists since I started the brand in 2009. But for several reasons, it cost about $7,000. And also needing somewhere permanent to put it, which I didn't have in London. So now that we're back, that we got funding to do that, which was great. And even like to do kind of some international shows and things like that as well, because the UK have a good system of supporting designers to export.
To go abroad,
exactly, to go places and show your collection so that you can make international sales, bring money into the country. It's good for Ireland. So now the local enterprise office are doing that as well.
Absolutely.
They're probably doing it a long time. It's just new to us because we haven't been here to access it.
Absolutely. And you're at the showcase show that we kind of covered on Creative Heartland's channel here. Are shows like that important to you, or is it just a way of kind of like networking?
I mean, like, we were just so glad to see people again because of
COVID.
We hadn't been able to see anyone.
Yeah.
And we know tons of people in the Irish industry, but we had moved back 5 days before the first cases hit in the UK. And so everything was getting locked down in Ireland as soon as we got home. So we had this great plan, to get in touch with all the stylists and photographers and buyers back here in Ireland as soon as we got back, but we couldn't do anything. And so then Showcase happened and we could, oh my God, I was so happy to see everybody. And, you know, to take on Irish stockists, because we haven't really followed up with the Irish market because we were based in London.
Yeah.
And some of the buyers would come to London. We weren't showing in Ireland. We were showing in like London and Paris and Milan and places like that. So some of the buyers would come there, but not all of them. So now, because we also, the product had changed a little bit as well. Since doing Create, we had started doing a lot of bracelets. Because that was really good for the Irish market, because people want something from the brand, but might not want the theatrical pieces. So they're kind of like the intro pieces. And so we took on several stockists who bought bracelets, but they also, lovely enough, they bought belts and handbags as well, which is good.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, that was great. It was really good.
Yeah,
really
fantastic. Listen, our time's almost up here. So I just want to say thanks a million for coming on today.
Having me.
Where can people find your work and buy your work?
Oh no,
mainly
the remember the list of our stockists. You can buy them on our website. Oh dear Lord, the buyers are going to kill me now. You really just hung me there.
No, it's okay. Well,
I tell you what, anybody that wants to buy, you can buy from our website. But if you'd like to, there's a shop in Portlaoise. You can just email Emmett, who's better at this stuff than me, and we'll give you a list of local stockists. There's one in the north. There's God, that's terrible. Just hung myself at the end now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine.
I blame baby brain.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Exactly that. Exactly. It's pregnancy brain. Listen, fantastic, Una, and we really hope to get those workshops going in the new year once you've had a bit of time to spend with the new baby, and get some of the technologies on the go. Maybe leather, leather laser cutting and craft cutting.
Yeah, we'll have some fun with that. Hopefully before the baby arrives. I forgot to give Emmett's email address if people do want to know their local.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So it's Emmett EMMETT at unaburke.com, and that's UNABURKE.com.
Okay, brilliant, good stuff. That's a good place to end it. Listen, thanks a million for